Hi, everyone. This is Evan Langert with the Langert Commercial Group. And today I'd like to address a question that comes across my desk fairly often. And that question is quite simply, how much office space do I need? Seems like a simple question on its face, and getting an estimate isn't all that hard, but there's a wide variety. If you go online, you'll see any number of office space calculators. I happen to be an affiliate for this area, the Washington, D.C. and Maryland, for a website called officefinder.com, and they've got one. I've also taken a look at a few others online, and they're all good, but they all differ with their presumptions as to what a normal office size is, what an efficient office size is, what a luxury office size is. So, first of all, the considerations that are on all these sheets, because these are considerations that you should always undertake when you're looking for office space, are how many employees do you have? How many executives do you have? In other words, the kind of the corner office guys and gals. Those offices tend to be a lot bigger than your inline offices. And then junior officers, vice presidents, things along that line. How many offices do they need? And then the line people, maybe your accounting staff, your legal staff, whatever else that have kind of inline offices that are typically smaller. How many of those do you have? The number of employees is an important consideration. However, if you have 20 or 30 employees and 90% of them are in 6x6 cubicles out in an open space area, then you need far fewer square feet than if you had everybody in an executive office, clearly, or even an inline office. So it's important to break the figure down, not just how many employees do you have, how many people are going in an open area or a bullpen, how many people are going into executive offices, how many people are going to mid-level executive or officer offices, how many inline, basic sized offices are you going to have? Other considerations, are you going to have a kitchen? Is that kitchen going to be eat in? Are people going to be eating their lunch in there? Or are you just looking for a refrigerator, a sink, and a microwave so people can make their food and take it back to their offices to eat, or perhaps to eat it in the conference room? Which brings me to the next question. Do you want one or more conference rooms? How many conference rooms do you need? And how many people are going to be seated in them? And in addition to that, what's your setup? Are you going to have a big table that people sit around and that's your conference room setup? Or are you going to have theater style seating, which a lot of more modern office settings are utilizing? How much storage do you need? Some places need little or none. There's some uses that need quite a bit of storage. That's another factor. A reception area. Are you going to have a reception area? They vary too. I have seen in some medical offices primarily 3, 4, 5 people behind a reception area all doing work and filing and answering phones and billing and what have you. And then I've seen obviously reception areas where there's one person, some of them where they're not even used half the time. And then next to the reception area typically is a waiting area. At your peak, how many people are going to be waiting? And depending on your type of business, it might be 1 or 2. If it's a busy, burgeoning medical office, then I've seen 20, 30, 40 seats and even more in some of these offices. So again, there's a wide variety in almost all of these classifications, and there are other factors that you have to consider. One thing, if you're already in an office and you're looking at potentially moving to another location, there's a little bit of a cheat that most of us can use. If you look up, I'd say 90% of offices that I've been in have the grid ceiling configuration. So they're either square tiles, in which case they're 2 feet wide by 2 feet long, or they're the rectangular tiles, which are 2 feet wide by 4 feet long. So you can kind of use that to estimate office sizes. If you're in an office and you think, well, we're going to need 5 about this size, look up and measure the ceiling, knowing that these are 2 by 2 or 2 by 4. And then perhaps you look at it and say, well, these are all 10 by 10. And so we need 5 essentially 10 by 10 offices. And, do that in your kitchen, do that in your storage area. And if you're looking at it and saying, well, we don't have enough space in the conference room, I'd like it to be 2 feet wider and 4 feet longer, add that into your calculation. And then when you get onto these office space calculators, you can be more specific. You can put in the exact square footages of the offices that you want, at least in some of them, and the other rooms that you want. Now, there's one other thing that we need to discuss about how much office space you need, and that is the fact that in a multi-tenant office building that's got a lobby, perhaps an atrium, stairways, elevators, shared or public bathrooms, and other features along that line, if you lease a certain amount of space, let's just say you're leasing 5,000 square feet of space, you're not really getting 5,000 square feet of space. There is a concept called, in most areas, gross leasable area, and then there's net rentable area. So what happens in these multi-tenant office buildings the vast majority of the time is your space is the space that you're going to occupy, but they also take your proportionate share. In other words, you're 10% of the building, then they're going to take 10% of all the common area, that atrium, that lobby, the stairwells, the elevator, if there's a community conference room in the building or community lunch area or things like that in the building, they'll take that square footage and they'll put 10% of that in with your square footage. And that's the gross leasable area. The percentage that they put in there is called a core factor. I've seen core factors be anywhere from 8 to 10% to up at 25% and over. So you really need to understand how much space you're actually getting. Ask questions like, what's the core factor, or what's the difference between gross leasable and net rentable area? And I will say that those terms differ in different parts of the country. Other terms are used, but they ought to know what you mean. No matter what part of the country you're in, they should know what you mean when you ask those questions. I do have a little bit of a story. I did a large lease, about 15,500 square feet, several years ago, and it was a national company. And I went in there, and the COO of the company did architecture as a hobby. And when I walked into his office, he told me that they needed 12,500 square feet of space. And he proudly showed me a beautiful drawing. He had laid out the entire office, where every chair, every credenza, every office, every cubicle, very beautifully drawn. But what he did not know, and therefore didn't take into consideration, was what I just had discussed. And if they went out and leased 12,500 square feet, and they were going to go it alone before they met me, had they done that and gotten 12,500 square feet, they would have moved in with all their furniture and their furnishings and all their plans, and they would have discovered, hey, we don't fit in here. And that's not the time when you want to discover that. So as I said earlier, we ended up leasing about 15,500 square feet. Anyway, all of these factors go into how much office space that you need. As always in my videos, I make no particular recommendations and give no particular advice for any situation. Every particular situation is different, and I like to address everything individually. If you want to talk about your situation, or perhaps hire me as a broker to help you get the right leased space, I can be reached at 443-529-0505. Again, 443-529-0505. Also, I can be emailed at elangert@thelangertgroup.com. That's elangert@thelangertgroup.com. Elangert is ELANGERT. Have a great day, and God bless.